Yes, please.
Okay, what will you do about the lack of broadband access in District 4? Your time starts now. Thank you.
I have been a teacher for 25 years and I spent a year on Zoom during lockdown. And I hate seeing money wasted. Before any money is spent, research needs to be done. A good example is Dinuba Unified spent a ton of money on hotspots to give out to all the kids without realizing in Delph and many areas that the hotspots they purchased were worthless. They didn't work. It didn't take a rocket science to figure that out. They could have figured that out without wasting all that money. Some of our kids were without Wi-Fi on Zoom, supposed to be doing Zoom for 4 to 6 weeks until they figured out that I think Verizon was the one that worked in those areas. So to solve the problem, different carriers work better in different areas. We need to find that out first before we spend any money. That's about it. Find out what works and then spend the money.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ford. An applause for all 4 of them. Now they've all answered this question. Okay, we're going to switch it up just a little bit because again, the league has a very a specific research base how they're going to do this. So Mr. Harness will do the first question, but then it will be the first to answer the question, but then it will go back to Ms. Culver, go to Mr. Valero, and then come back to Mr. Gong so that we're doing it in a fair manner. Okay, so the next question, Mr. Harness will go first. Ms. Culver will go second. Yes, and then Mr. Valero will go third and Mr. Gong will go fourth. Okay, and the question is, what are your views on how the County of Tulare handled the pandemic? I will read it again. What are your views on how the County of Tulare handled the pandemic? Mr. Harness, timekeepers, are you ready? You have 1.5 minutes. Mr. Harness?
Very easy to be the armchair quarterback, not being elected at that time. I think many cities in the county itself did the best that they could to analyze the situation and follow CDC guidelines to ensure the safety of the public. There were a few things that I was not very happy with was the way they handled business shutdowns. In fact, I know many businesses that stayed open during the pandemic and others who perhaps called the county to ask them for guidance because it was a very difficult process to understand on how you could stay open, if you could stay open. And within 24 or 48 hours, a code enforcement showed up to ensure they were shut down. So I didn't like the way that was handled in District 4 specifically. I don't have any examples outside of District 4, but I have more than half a dozen here. So I do not think they handled that portion properly. Rather than working with business to help them find solutions to survive, they were more focused on closing those small businesses. And in order to receive the American Recovery Act dollars, I get it. It made sense, but we do have to appreciate when an elected official touts their accomplishments of spending American relief tax dollars. Those came off the backs of small businesses that were shut down. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harness. Ms. Culver will go next. Shall I read the question for you again?
Yes.
What are
please.
your views on how the County of Tulare handled the pandemic? Your time starts now.
I'm not happy the way the county handled it. They shut businesses down. One of my best friends owns a salon in Visalia. Single mom, no one to fall back on, just trying to make an honest living. They shut her down, did not qualify for 1 cent of any of the things that came out. Met a restaurant owner in Badger. He just spent $7,000 on food. The next day he was locked down. These are people just trying to make an honest living. The county is also promoting propaganda and fear over the virus. My aunt had COVID, 88 years old. She survived. Quia Delta is offering antibody treatments. That should be promoted, not get your shot, wear the mask, give people hope They are trying to fear people. And my Aunt Sis is here today, alive and well. And I am thankful for Quia Delta for doing that. But does anyone here know Quia Delta is offering that? Everyone I've spoke to in the health industry, nobody knew about that. And that should be promoted. And we need to keep businesses open. We need to keep businesses open. Our economy is going to tank without that. And the county tried to shut everyone down. Thank you.
Thank you. You want to go ahead and shut your mic off, please? And again, to remind you, next will be Mr. Supervisor Valero. Can I read the question for you again?
No, I'm good. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
All right. So I just want to preface this by saying that this was new for everyone, everywhere, worldwide. So to make kind of an attack on certain individuals that are trying to do the very best work for the people and to keep them alive, I think that we are really just trying to do our very best. So I want to give kudos to our HHSA staff who did a fabulous job during the pandemic. They worked tirelessly day in and day out, making sure we had the necessary vaccines and tests available to weather the storm. I know initially we had difficulty accessing state resources. However, I was a strong advocate in making sure that those resources came down to the county. Again, yes, it could be choice, but making sure that there was available resources. For example, when vaccine allocations were given across the state, I noticed that District 4 was a vaccine desert. And so I wrote letters to the state, connected with the Deputy Director of External Affairs, and then provided more vaccine, and especially here in the community of Woodlake. And we made sure that our memorial halls received compensation for hosting these testing and vaccine events. All departments rose to the task, from securing and distributing highly limited PPE supplies to local healthcare facilities providing direction to schools, healthcare partners, businesses, and community partners. A joint information command center that was created so that messaging was concise and consistent. In addition to that, we also created a community cares coalition to bring all nonprofits together in support of this cause.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Valero. Can you take your mic off, please? Mr. Gong, timekeepers, are you ready? Mr. Gong, I'm going to read the question for you again. What are your views on how the County of Tulare handled the pandemic?
Well, I kind of agree with Eddie that this totally came unexpected. Nobody expected it, and you're almost having to learn as you go what to do. I know I just signed a lease on one of my businesses 2 months before the pandemic, and then the sheriff's department shut them down. And then you were looking at, and they were a secondhand store, but at that time, farmers were not considered critical business, which I'm glad they reversed that. These guys sold secondhand clothing, and then you have Walmart, which have to have a grocery store in place, but they still sold the rest of their goods. So, it's just something that you learn as you go, and we may have to play with it, determine what business could be open that would make it, make it appropriate for us to weather this pandemic. And that's.
Thank you. Applause for question 3 for all of our candidates. Thank you. So those were our pre-questions that we had prepared ahead of time, but now we have some questions from the audience. And just to let you know, after this question, we'll take a 5-minute break to stretch you guys out and let you breathe a minute, okay? So I'm going to refer to my proposed exactly, I have to follow instructions for question 4. First, it will be Mr. Valero, then it will be Mr. Gong, then it will be Ms. Culver, and then Mr. Harness, in this order, okay? So Mr. Valero, you will go first, and the question is, right here. What top 2 or 3 issues are you most passionate about should you be elected? And so why should we vote for you?
We have several issues that are very important, but I will kind of speak to 3, one of them being public safety. I know that public safety is important for our communities, and so that's why we held a ribbon cutting to bring in a new fire station here in Tulare County, and we've only been able to bring that since 1996. So imagine another fire station. We have committed 1.8 million in funding for the purchase of a new ladder truck. The sheriff's air unit has had multiple 2 airplanes purchased as a result. The probation is now consolidated, and where we were able to remove 3 units into 1. The purchase of a new fire truck station 4, among other things, like a Motorola communication system that will consolidate all of our critical calls. When people call, can get faster response. Another thing is homelessness. I know that we've been working with Room Key to make sure that the funding that does come from the state, which we've received already 5.2 million, is going to the purchase of different hotels and other areas, so that way we can get our homeless off the street and into our homes with wraparound services through Health and Human Services. Another one that I just want to highlight that is very important, in addition to water and among others, but is regional transportation. I belong to the Regional Transportation Authority, and where we are consolidating all of our transportation units, like the city of Tulare, city of Farmersville, city of Exeter, and we're consolidating that to create new transportation avenues, as well as an Uber-like system that will drop off and pick up in front of your home. So again, a wide array of issues, but those are the 3 that I'm discussing today.
Thank you, Mr. Valero. Your mic, please. Mr. Gong, are you ready? Timekeepers, are we ready? Let me read you the question again.
Okay.
What 2 or 3 top issues are you most passionate about should you be elected? So why should we vote for you?
Well, obviously, I guess my top issues are farming, water, because obviously water affects our farming. In terms of public safety, I kind of agree, but I spent 10 years as a sheriff volunteer for Tulare County. I was the past president. I just want to throw that out. And I really believe that technology is going to be the thing that's going to make this county into a really good county. And I'm assuming we're technology regarding farming and things like that. And and I really don't want to give up the farming land. And then if you really think about it, like the impact of the war in Ukraine, they can't, they're bottled in there. They used to do a lot of oats, and that's being held up. That's being stopped by blockades, so on and so forth, and their inability to farm those things. So, that's something that the county could step up and offset, since I think they feed 40% of the, or at least 25% of the world population.
Thank you, Mr. Gong. Ms. Culver, you're next. I'll read the question for you again.
Yes.
Okay. What 2 or 3 issues are you most passionate about should you be elected? So why should we vote for you? Sorry, your time starts now.
We need to protect our water and our farms. We are all related to ag in one way or another. If we lose our farms and our ag, there's nothing left in the valley. There's so much regulation, and the regulations need to stop. And whatever we can do at the county level to reduce that, we can. My dad's a farmer, and the regulations are just unbelievable how many they have added on. We also need to clean up county roads, especially in Dinuba. The roads, the trash dumping on the roads is horrible. By my house, there's 2 mattresses right now. I don't know why, but it's horrible, and we need to get that fixed. I also want to ensure that businesses are never shut down again. And we need affordable housing. As a teacher for 25 years, I've seen the struggles my students' families have faced. Most families are 1 paycheck away from being homeless. If something bad happened, they don't have a 30 to 60 day, years of savings to get them by. We need affordable housing. I've got a almost 23-year-old. I have a 28-year-old nephew. And for them to find a house right now, it's difficult. We need more affordable housing, and we need to help the homeless situation also. Nobody should be homeless. I feel strongly we do more to protect our dogs than we do the people on the street, and that's not right. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Culver. Mr. Harness, you're next. What top 2 or 3 issues are you most passionate about? Should you be elected? So why should we vote for you? Thank you.
Well, I still believe that the taxpayers are our bosses and that we serve the people. So not necessarily my top 3 or 4 issues, but the residents of District 4, it starts with crime and safety. We need to come together as a county, as a board, and with our departments to address the lack of deputies that are able to patrol the unincorporated jurisdictions. That is just a fact of life. No matter which part of the county I go to talk to folks, that is an issue with things like legislation from Sacramento, like Propositions 47, 57, and Assembly Bill 109, with the realignment bill. There's more criminals out, and so we need to increase our public safety. That's number one. And number two, we have to couple that with mental health resources, because what's happening with the cities within our district is that our frontline responders are having to be occupied with these individuals with mental health illness, and they're not able to be out because we have a lack of mental health counselors and psychiatric counselors to relieve them. And so we need to increase that so that our officers can do what they're supposed to do and catch these criminals. Roads, we've been talking about roads for several decades. This goes back a few election cycles. The magnitude of, man, that goes fast. Crime and safety, roads and water. I talked about the clean surface water treatment that I'll work on day one. Thank you.
Thank you. A round of applause for our 4 candidates. Okay. We have completed the first rounds and we don't want to tax anybody too much. So we're going to give you 5 minutes. There is water, there are cookies, there are sandwiches. The ladies' room is at the very end. The men's room is in the middle. So please, 5 minutes, timekeepers, if I can have you put official 5 minutes on there and I will call you all back. Have a stretch. Thank you. How will we voters know if you are qualified to meet the needs of unincorporated towns like Ivanhoe to be included in fair allocations of funds? Your time starts now.
It's a good question. Everyone deserves equal funds. As a teacher, I've had kids from Delft, which is a colony. Excuse me, they are left out quite a bit, and they shouldn't be. Everyone deserves equal funds. I've grown up in Dinuba. I understand the small communities. My dad taught in Ivanhoe for lots of years, so I'm familiar with Ivanhoe also. And you just fight for it. You stand up and you fight and you make sure everyone gets equal funding.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Your mic, please. Thank you. Timekeepers, are you ready? Mr. Wong, go. Would you like me to read it again? You're good.
Yeah, repeat that.
Okay.
They'll give me a second to
Okay.
think.
Well, how will we voters know if you are qualified to meet the needs of unincorporated towns like Ivanhoe? Can we be included so that we are included in fair allocations of funds?
I grew up and spent most of my time in Orosi, California, so you can't. That's a pretty small town. And the other thing I did when I was on the grand jury, we did something totally different in terms of issues that regarding problems with these I guess the complaints, citizens' complaint. But one of the things I did when I was chairing that committee was that we picked one city and made it a positive city. And it happened to be Dinuba at that time because Dinuba was growing, and we wanted to make it a positive item because we thought if they read the complaints of other cities that had problems, then they would dismiss it and because they're not involved. But if they read something positive, they may use the same idea that these small cities has or implement it, and hopefully that will improve the other cities.
Thank you. Mr. Harness, your timekeepers, are you ready? Would you like me to read it again?
Yeah.
Okay. how will we voters know if you are qualified to meet the needs of unincorporated towns like Ivanhoe to be included in fair allocations of funds?
Well, I feel like I'm qualified because of my experience as a council member for 8 years in the city of Dinuba and mayor for 2 years. I'm also, the main reason I'm running is because of those unincorporated jurisdictions, and that's who I truly feel we should be representing and focusing on. Cutler, Orosi, Ivanhoe, New London. One of the things I'll do if elected within the first 6 months or so is put an exploratory committee together to work with LAFCO to see if incorporating Cutler, Orosi is feasible, and perhaps bring that to the ballot for those voters. Cutler, Orosi being nearly 15,000 residents. The reason I bring that up is because if they were incorporated, which is what I believe the residents of Cutler, Orosi are interested in, that would free up the resources for those 4,000 population Ivanhoes, the 1,200 New London residents, et cetera. So that's why I'm doing this. Is we all pay taxes. Ivanhoe, Cutler, Orosi, Munson, Sultana, they deserve a better quality of life. They deserve infrastructure like sidewalks and roads and street lights, elementary things like code enforcement and animal control, because they work very hard as well. And all they're wanting to do is raise a family in a better, safer place. And so they have my promise that that's why I'm here. And I'm ready to get to work for them day one.
Thank you, Mr. Harness. Mr. Supervisor Valero, are you ready?
Yes.
Timekeepers, are we ready? Okay,
All right.
would you like me to read it again?
I'm good.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
So I'd like to share that I'm a product of the unincorporated town of Orosi. And while I was on the school board, I worked diligently with Yolanda Valdez as superintendent, so that way we could pass an $18 million bond with 70% of our community in support. That project brought a water sports park, sports complex, renovated our football stadium, placed solar panels on each of our school parking lots, and will now be getting an aquatic center and auditorium because we laid the foundation back when I was a school board member working as a team. Now that I as a supervisor, I have also worked with our unincorporated communities. I attend monthly the Ivanhoe Town Council, Community Council meeting, where I've understood their needs and been addressed. For example, at the very beginning of my tenure, I went to an Ivanhoe Town Council meeting and they expressed 3 projects. Those 3 projects are and are in process: a crosswalk from the north to the south so that students have the ability to cross the street safely on 328 and 156. We are getting a new turning lane, a safety lane as you come into Ivanhoe because of accidents that have occurred. In addition to that, we are building a sidewalk safe routes to school from the school to the center of the community. In addition to that, I can discuss more, like in Delft Colony, I've encouraged meetings. I've held at least 30 town halls in order to make sure that the voices of the community are always front and center.
Thank you, Mr. Valero. Your mic, please. We did all 4 of you, right? Yep. So applause for the question. Thank you very much. And so this next question will be in the order. Mr. Gong, you will go first, and then Mr. Harness, Mr. Valero, and we'll go back to Ms. Culver. Okay? And the question is, ready yet? What can be done about the dumping of trash on county roads in Tulare County? I'll read it again. What can be done about the dumping of trash on county roads in Tulare County? Mr. Gong, your time starts now.
Well, I don't know what could be done. All I know is the sheriff department has a cleanup crew, from the prison that do pick up and can pick up trash. But unless the citizen educate themselves not to dump trash, I find it very difficult that it could be maintained. I know the Cutler Orosi Vision Committee, a couple of times we did a cleanup in Orosi area, and I also recall one time that there was a major cleanup where we had the trash company pick up the trash. That people had to put their trash out there, and they had a schedule of picking out trash. And one of these houses had trash that literally was so pile high that you couldn't see their house from the street. So, you know, you have to educate your people that it is wrong to just trash the place because you live here. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Harness, I'll read the question again for you. What can be done about the dumping of trash on county roads in Tulare County?
Thank you for that. That's a great question because, you know, I want folks to know that I am running to work on solutions to problems like illegal dumping and problems like roads that, you know, all we're doing is filling potholes and we don't have a program put in place for repaving. In the case of illegal dumping, it comes up daily as I'm out on the campaign trail. And we need a solution. I'm not here to field calls because we do have a dumping a program where that can be picked up. I'm not interested in facilitating, taking your call, calling staff, having them pick up the garbage. I want to work on a solution to this issue. It's going to be a group effort. We're going to have to come together as a board, as a county, with our sheriff's department, with our district attorney, with our disposal companies, and have work on a plan to have free dump days like we did in Dinuba. It's not going to get rid of the problem. It will never go away, but it does help mitigate the issue. We also have to have higher penalties. There's farmers that have everything on video. They have envelopes with people's home addresses on it, and currently nothing is being done about it. So I'm asking for your vote so that I can get to work on solutions to these problems, not just constantly dealing with, you know, telling staff they have to go up and pick this up. There is a place in Ivanhoe, it's my understanding, that has become a common dumping ground for actually a disposal or a dumping business. So I want to get to work on a solution for those communities.
Thank you, Mr. Harness. Mr. Valero, Supervisor.
So I would share that maybe some may not want to take that call or answer that concern. I always offer my phone number as well as email to make sure that we have individuals going out from the county to pick up. Sadly, unfortunately, when we do call out and we do pick up that trash, within the next day or so, there goes another dump. So it is a systemic issue that we need to address wholeheartedly as communities. And I would like to share that we do and are working on a program in motion so that way we can continue to educate, so that we can continue to make sure that families as well as others know that there are ways in which we can provide those dumps in locations close to community. I will share that the difficulty was within the past 2 years was due to COVID. So it wasn't anything to do with the office itself of the Board of Supervisors, but because of the companies and the haulers who had to follow strict guidelines from the state as well, that did not allow those dumping days to occur within the past 2 years. However, we are making it a priority that we will continue to see more dumping days and more services and more community events as we continue to move through. And so I just like to say that we are working on a process, as well as because of COVID, we were unable to do a majority of those, but we will continue to provide those in the months and years to come.
Thank you, Mr. Valero. Ms. Culver, would you like me to read the question again?
Yes, please.
What can be done about the dumping of trash on county roads in Tulare County?
This is a huge issue, especially in the Dinuba area. For one, I'd like to run a cost analysis to see how much we're spending on picking up the trash and just trying to, it's kind of the ping pong effect. Every time someone calls in, you're going out there. How much are we spending on that versus offering free dump days, putting dumpsters out? Some roads are just notorious for the trash always going there. Maybe just put a dumpster there. I also think education is key. The last 2 years has really shown us what constant messaging can do, how it can change people's behavior. We need to get back to telling people, obviously we need to tell them dumping is not right. That's not something we should do. Pena Brothers takes free mattresses. There's no reason for people to dump those on the side of the road. And maybe people don't realize that, but if that was broadcasted constantly, those should not be dumped on the side of the road. So between education and offering more services, we can get that stopped.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can we have a round of applause for our candidates, please? And candidates, you know, this means shut your mic off. I'm not making a threat. Okay, I just want to let you know. Okay. It takes a lot to sit in those seats and to be in those positions of making decisions for you. So again, thank you all for coming. Mr. Harness, your mic is still on. So the next. We haven't finished yet. Oh, I'm sorry. That was my bad. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you didn't answer the trash question? Yeah, you started. Yes. Okay. I thought I had done something wrong. No. So the next one, we will start with Mr. We have to go this way. Mr. Harness, you will be first, and then Mr. Valero will go, Ms. Culver will go, and then Mr. Gong on this next question. And we're going to go back to one of our questions here. If I can have the question, please. That's not the right question. Can you go one more? Oh, here it is. Three Rivers is now in District 4, and parts of their community had to evacuate in 2020 and 2021 due to wildfires. What services do you think the county should provide? I'm going to read it again. Three Rivers is now in District 4, and parts of their community had to evacuate in 2020 and 2021 due to wildfires. What services do you think the county should provide?
Post-fire or during the evacuations?
They had to evacuate. What services do you think the county should provide? And I think that would be a question.
Well, during the evacuation, it was communication was key. They needed, these folks were in a dire situation with livestock and their livelihood and in their homes. So communication was key. I actually think at that time, the Supervisor McCarry did a good job of relaying and having our Chief Norman up there. But if that were to happen again, it's just a matter of resources for those families. Livestock, again, that was critical and disheartening to see the families that lost their those animals. And so not much more that you can do in a disastrous time like that, in a panic situation, but communication is going to be key, and those resources need to be available. That communication needs to be available to those residents. Gets back to the broadband issue and the towers, the services that they're lacking up there. But that is key to those individuals and the evacuation process.
Thank you. Mr. Valero, you're next. Would you like me to read that again? You're good? Okay.
All right. It was unfortunate that we had these wildfires present in our district, in our community. However, I'd like to share that we have learned lessons from the fire and making sure that we have senior services readily available, making sure we're checking in on them, or if they need to be relocated, that we have the assistance in order to do so. I know with Red Cross, we did have somewhat of an issue with regards to relocation. Many of the communities were told to go to Porterville, which is District 5, which is good. However, trying to find some location that is closer to home, so that way that they are not far away from their livestock. I know that Wood Lake did a fabulous job of making sure that families were able to take their livestock out to the Wood Lake Lions Rodeo, and our Chief of Police in Wood Lake, Mr. Marquez, Chief Marquez, was excellent with his command staff to be able to make sure that that was up and running. In addition to that, I attended a Fire Safety Council meeting on a Saturday in Three Rivers to make sure that I also understood their needs as well as what could be better. In addition to that, Chief Norman has gone up into the areas of Badger and Three Rivers, and I followed along to make sure that I could also be a support system when Chief Norman is going out and making those presentations. I know that we did a good job and we could do even better, but coordinating through our Human Services Department through HHSA, and there was a coordinated efforts team that was in place to make sure that we did what we could during that time of need.
Thank you. You want to get your mic, please, Supervisor? Okay, timekeepers, are you ready? Ms. Culver, shall I read it again or you're good?
Yes, please.
Okay. What can be done about, oh, I'm sorry, Three Rivers. Three Rivers is now in District 4 and part of their community had to evacuate in 2020 and 2021 due to wildfires. What services do you think the county should provide?
One, they need more escape routes. There's really one way in and out, and that's a big issue. There also needs to be a plan. We need a definite plan before disaster happens. I believe in planning for the worst and praying for the best. Everyone needs to know what that plan is, so when it happens, they're not caught off guard, especially if they have livestock. It's hard enough just for me to get my dog from point A to B, much less lots of animals. The school district, my school district, we use teleparent, and a message, excuse me, a message can go out quickly via text and phone call. I know in Three Rivers, there's a lot of landlines, so it can be trickier up there, but messages going out, planning ahead of time. And then you also need people going door to door. There's older people, they don't always hear their phones. They don't answer their phones. They don't hear their texts. So they're having a plan in place before disaster helps is the biggest thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gong, are you ready? Ms. Culver, can you shut your mic off, please?
Yes.
Timekeepers, are you ready?
I think I'm fine with
The question, okay?
Three Rivers. You know, I used to have a person from Three Rivers who ran the newspaper down there on the planning commission. I see him almost twice a month, and from my recall, they always have meetings with the county, and since he retired from the newspaper, I don't know what the situation, but I assume that they still have these various meetings. I know they have a deputy that is a resident of that area that manages that area, and I don't know if there's anything else you could do. I know they do a good job of trying to keep the place clean and keep suppression of fire down and those type of things. So probably communication and getting a fire up there is as quickly as possible is probably crucially important for them.
Great, thank you. Okay, we went all forward, correct? I didn't make any mistakes. And applause for this was a hard question. Thank you. I screwed up and asked the questions in an order, so I'm going to ask them to go back to number 4. And this one, the question, Mr. Valero will go first, Ms. Culver will go second, Mr. Gong will go third, and Mr. Harness will go fourth. Okay. Immigration and Custom Enforcement, ICE, often ask county jails to hold undocumented people so federal agents can pick them up and put them into deportation proceedings. Do you think Tulare County should hand over undocumented people to ICE after they are released from a county jail? So I will reread that question. Do you think Tulare County should hand over undocumented people to ICE after they are released from a county jail? And I believe Mr. Supervisor Valero, you're first. Timekeepers, ready?
Yes. So I believe this is not a black and white issue. I think this is an issue where we really understand the individual and what the individual has committed, and then to be able to work through law enforcement and to be able to make sure that with the level of that crime, or with the background of that individual, that we can determine how and when and why these individuals are being sent to ICE. So again, a very much more critical understanding of the individual, the case, and how we move that forward.
Thank you. Ms. Culver. Mr. Supervisor, your mic, please. And your timekeepers, are you ready? I'm going to read the question again. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, often ask county jails to hold undocumented people so federal agents can pick them up and put them into deportation proceedings. Do you think Tulare County should hand over undocumented people to ICE after they are released from a county jail?
This can be a tricky question too, because it depends why they're being handed over to ICE. Did they commit a crime or are they just undocumented? If they committed a crime, they don't need to be here. As a teacher, I've seen children separated from their parents, and it's heartbreaking. So you do need to look at it case by case. I know one student, she was sent back to Mexico, even though she was born here, but there were issues with paternity. And so it has to go, it needs to be case by case. One blanket statement doesn't always work for everyone. And I think the bigger issue is how to get people to come here legally. We're all immigrants in this. I'm assuming most of us are, unless you're Native American. My grandmother was first generation from Germany, but they came here legally. And we need to make it easier for people to get here legally.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Are you ready? You want to get your mic, please? Ms. Colbert, your mic. Thank you. Timekeepers, are you ready? Shall I read the question for you one more time, or you're good? Oh, you were there.
There it goes. Yeah, it's tough because you don't know why they're being held in jail. All I know is I grew up with a lot of people that migrated to this country and did a lot of hard work. We had a grocery store, and I recall some of the kids grew up and said if it wasn't for us giving them credit, they couldn't have made it. Through living in a migrant situation, so should they be turned over to the federal department? That seems like that's a federal decision, and we don't want to sit here and break the law. But then again, I really support some type of immigration reform that would allow for us to really take care of those people that are undocumented but can be good citizens.
Okay, thank you. Should I read the question for you again, Mr. Harris?
Please.
Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, often ask county jails to hold undocumented people so federal agents can pick them up and put them into deportation proceedings. Do you think Tulare County should hand over undocumented people to ICE after they are released from a county jail?
Well, I think the answer has been repeated. It's a case by case situation here. I'm very pro immigration. 25 years working in the unincorporated community of Orosi and catering to farmers and field workers every morning, and hiring dreamers as employees to help them with their college. Much necessary. When it boils down to this question in particular, I think it's kind of the common sense approach. If they have committed the crime and they are in need of being handed over, would you rather them be handed over at the jail facility, or would you want them tracked down in neighborhoods and beating down on doors of families that have no business being involved in that, when that's something that could be handled at the jails if the crime fits the policy? So I think it's just, to me, it's just that common sense approach of if this criminal is subject to deportation, do you want that at the jail facility or do you want that in your neighborhoods? Thank you.
Thank you. We've also answered that question. Shall we give the candidates the applause, please, for their work? We are now at 7:20. I think we have like 10 more questions from the audience, but I think we're really at the time that we would like to thank our candidates for coming, and let's just give them all another applause for standing up and to want to represent you as well. Again, I'm going to turn it over now to Luisa Quesada for some announcements. And then remember, the candidates are welcome to hang out a little bit. I'm pretty sure there's still some sandwiches. Oh, yes, we'll be doing the closing remarks and then you guys, do, Donna? 1.5 minutes for closing remarks? 1 minute. Okay, so I forgot about closing remarks. So we'll go ahead and let you guys have the breath. We'll do a closing remark. I'm going to use my sheet to make sure that I'm going in the order. So, and this one we will start with Ms. Culver. No, I'm lying. We just did this one. Yes, with Ms. Culver, and then we will go to Mr. Gong. No, I'm sorry, this is confusing. Ms. Culver will be first, and then Mr. Harness, and then Ms. Gong, and then Mr. Valero, Supervisor Valero. Okay? So you have 1 minute for your closing remarks. Ms. Culver will go first. Mr. Harness will go second, Mr. Gong will go third, and then Mr. Valero will go last for your 1 minute closing remark. Timekeepers, are you ready? And we will begin now. Thank you.
Thank you for having me here this evening. I appreciate your time. As a teacher for 25 years, I've seen the struggles and I know our families' needs. My goal is to protect Tulare County from any future lockdowns. I want to improve our roads and clean up the trash on the sides of the roads. I support our sheriffs. I want to make Tulare County a better place, affordable housing, and to find solutions for the homeless situation. I'm not sure where we're on the time. So please vote for Kelly Culver, June 7th. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Culver. Mrs. Culver, Ms. Culver, sorry. Okay, Mr. Harness, you're going next. Thank you.
Well, thank you all for being here this evening and giving us this opportunity. I just want you all to leave here today knowing that I'm ready to get to work for you day one. I truly believe that representing requires a balance of reacting and governing. Yes, reacting to issues that are of serious nature that need to be addressed immediately, but then also putting long-term solutions together for things like roads, crime and safety, and beefing up our sheriff's department and our deputies patrolling. So I want to thank you again. I also wanted to note that like there. But anyway, thank you very much. A vote for Scott Harness is a vote for solutions. It's a vote for law enforcement. It's a vote for public safety. And I would just appreciate that vote come June 7th. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Harness. Mr. Gong, hold your applause, please. Mr. Gong, your time starts now.
I want to thank everyone for coming this evening, and but people keep asking me why I'm running for county supervisor, and I don't have really, the direct answer. I don't know, other than the fact that I want to do things that's right and benefit the county. But my experience kind of speaks for itself. I just want to rattle off some of the stuff I've accomplished. In 2006, I was the Color Rossi Chamber Commerce Man of the Year. 2003, I was Tulare County Office of Education SciCon Volunteer of the Year. In 2001, I was the Tulare County Sheriff Volunteer of the Year. In 2022, recently, I was selected by State Senator Melissa Huerta as the Veteran of the Year for 2021. So I do have a lot of experience that I could draw from that would help to make this a better county and help the citizen become in a better situation.
Great, thank you. To make sure I don't screw this up. Three, was Mr. Gong, and now we have Mr. Valero. All four of you went already?
Yeah, I'm the last.
Okay, Supervisor Valero, you have 1 minute. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for attending tonight. I would like to just share that I am a public servant, and I care deeply about connecting the dots and providing resources to all of our communities, whether it's city or unincorporated communities. I actually left the Valley after high school and attended Cornell University in upstate New York, then went off to Georgetown, did programs at Princeton University and Georgetown. And never did I think, because of the pedigree or whatever that was, that I would come back home. But as a man of faith, I felt like, you know what, there is something that was here, something that I needed to do. And sure enough, I took that challenge, I took that nudge, and I came back to the Central Valley. And now my heart is here. And I am going to continue to work hard, dream big, work hard, and give back 110%. The work is not done yet. And the pandemic may have stalled some issues, but again, we've already done many, many things. And I just like to say that I thank the Tulare County Fire Chief, Charlie Norman, for endorsing me, as well as Tim, Tim, the district attorney, Tim Ward, because they believe in the work that I'm doing. So thank you, Tim Ward, and thank you, Chief Norman, for your endorsement.
Thank you, Supervisor. Okay, a round of applause for all of the candidates. They've done a tremendous job this evening. That's it. Okay, we're going to have just some closing remarks. We have some announcements. I have to move over. By Luisa Casada. The candidates are all invited to stay after our closing remarks. We do have some sandwiches and some cookies as well that are still here. Again, it's been a pleasure. I will pass this on to Luisa Casada.
Hello, good evening. My name is Luisa Casada. I work for the Dolores Huerta Foundation. It is very important to vote. Our vote is our voice. I would like to invite you. We are going to be registering people to vote on May the 3rd at 4:30 at the Good Lake Plaza, and also on May the 7th, 10 o'clock at the parade for the rodeo for the Good Lake Rodeo. Also, we're asking people to help us make calls for people to approve the AB 2494, also for the AB 2030 in Fresno and Kern, so we can have an independent group of people to do redistricting for the 2030th. And now I would like to introduce Angel Ruiz. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming out. First of all, you were able to see 4 candidates give out their answer to really tough questions that was brought forth by the community, by each and every one of you. We would like to thank the League Women Voters of Tulare County League Women Mexican American Women, Dinuba Chamber of Commerce, Valley Voices, and Catherine Doe, CMAC, LULAC, and the Dolores Huerta Foundation. But before I thank all of them, I want to thank the volunteers, because without them, this couldn't be possible. This forum, streaming it live on different sites, we wouldn't be able to do it without the volunteers, without their support. So thank you, a special thank you to that. A few reminders. We are going to be getting our ballots May 9th, which is next week. We're going to have about a month to vote. So when you get your ballot, please fill it out, send it back. If not, I'll see you June 7th when we vote. The last thing I want to remind you guys is that thank you for coming out. It means a lot to all of us that you came out, and we will be having another forum on the 12th, which will be next week. So we'll see you in Visalia. Thank you again. Candidates, thank you for coming out. We welcome you to stay and talk to the constituents. Thank you, everyone. We did it.